In the previous scene, we saw Russia proving its power in the shadows of hybrid warfare.
The Bulgarian government confirmed their chilling claim: the satellite signals guiding Ursula von der Leyen's plane were sabotaged mid-flight.
But what happened next could have turned disaster into tragedy. Fortunately, Bulgarian air traffic control and von der Leyen's pilot responded with lightning speed. Instead of relying on the scrambled GPS, they switched to backup terrestrial navigation tools, safely steering the aircraft to its destination.
No harm came to the European Commission president, that much is clear.
But make no mistake. This was no accidental interference.
It was a brazen, calculated strike on a major European leader, one Russia wouldn't dare attempt outright beyond the Ukrainian battlefield.
Ariana Podesta, the EU Commission spokesperson, wasted no time naming the culprit. She made it plain what everyone suspects: this was Russia's hand at work.
Bulgarian authorities suspect blatant interference by Russia, she declared. Podesta's tone was steady but firm, a voice weathered by years of Russian threats and provocations. This attack wasn't just random intimidation, it underscored the EU's fierce resolve to strengthen defenses and stand unwavering beside Ukraine. Von der Leyen's mission to frontline EU states has never been more urgent, nor more dangerous. Russia's intention?
To spook and unsettle the European Union. To show it who holds the upper hand.
Yet the EU isn't flinching. Is this a showdown or a warning shot? An attack?
The word echoes ominously, even though Russia launched no missiles. No jets took to the skies to chase down the EC president's plane.
This was a new kind of warfare, silent, insidious, and invisible. But GPS jamming is no minor nuisance.
Imagine the cockpit quiet but for the pilot's tense breathing and the faint static in the headset. Suddenly, all navigation screens flicker, coordinates scramble, the steady hum of electronics morphs into chaotic noise.
The pilot's tools for safe passage vanish into digital chaos.
This is more than mere disruption, it's a weapon that can send a plane off course, to foreign airspace or worse, into a fatal crash.
How close did von der Leyen come to disaster? The line between intimidation and catastrophe blurred dangerously. Ground-based jammers flood the skies with false signals, drowning out the vital whispers from GPS satellites.
This interference steals a pilot's lifeline, precise location data, and replaces certainty with confusion. In a world where every second counts, this tactic turns the sky into a minefield.
What if the worst had happened? Would Russia have admitted fault, or slipped further into denial?
The stakes behind this invisible attack reach far beyond one plane.
Was this a message? A threat veiled beneath the hum of static and the pilot's calm voice over emergency channels? The EU's next move hangs in the balance, shadowed by this silent assault. What lies ahead as this unseen war escalates? Can the EU hold firm against an invisible enemy playing a dangerous game? The silence over the skies of Bulgaria might just be the calm before a storm. Previously, we saw how GPS jamming can throw an aircraft's navigation into chaos.
These powerful signals from the ground drown out satellite data, leaving pilots blind to their exact positions.
Imagine losing every clue to where you are while flying high. Without geolocation data, the risk grows. The pilot could unwittingly veer off course, possibly crossing into hostile airspace.
Or worse, if the plane strays too far from its destination, fuel could run dangerously low, making a safe landing impossible.
This isn't a random new tactic. Russia has used similar interference against NATO-aligned vessels in the Baltic Sea.
Countries like Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Sweden, Finland, Poland, and Germany have all reported disruptions.
But what's behind these attacks?
Experts debate whether this is mere collateral damage from Russian defenses trying to block Ukrainian drones, or a deliberate move targeting peaceful nations.
Excuses might stretch credibility in borderlands like the Baltic states, close to both Russia and Ukraine.
But consider Bulgaria, a country beyond Ukraine's reach, separated by two others.
Could the jamming there have been a mistake? Hardly.
This smacks of clear intent. Here's where it gets chilling: if Russia had fired a missile at von der Leyen's plane, the origin would be traceable. The wreckage, the missile debris, everything would paint a clear picture.
But jamming? It's a ghost weapon.
It lets Russia lurk in the shadows, keeping its hands clean if disaster strikes.
An accident could occur, yet Moscow could simply deny involvement, maintaining plausible deniability. The plot thickens when you realize this attack wasn't just about intimidation, it was a strategic dance on a razor's edge. Could the silent chaos caused by these invisible signals cost a life? Would the European Commission president have survived if the pilot hadn't adapted fast? And just how far is Russia willing to push before the stakes spiral out of control? Previously, we saw how Russia's covert attempt to unsettle a top EU leader could have spiraled into disaster. While their interference stopped short of outright destruction, the stakes were staggering. Now, the question is, how did Russia respond when confronted with these bold accusations? And what does this reveal about the bigger game at play? Russia's reaction was swift and blunt. Mere hours after Bulgaria confirmed the GPS jamming on the European Commission president's flight, the Kremlin dismissed the claims coldly, saying only, "Your information is incorrect." There was no detailed denial, no counterargument, just a stark refusal to acknowledge responsibility. This response fits perfectly with Russia's well-known strategy: deny everything, no matter the evidence. No other nation in Europe had reason to scramble the signals of such an important EU flight. And yet, Russia's fingerprints are unmistakable. Like their notorious misinformation campaigns, relentless cyber assaults, and shadowy social media manipulation, this act of disruption fits their hybrid warfare playbook perfectly. Deny, 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 it's the same thread woven through every move they make. But what if, for a moment, we entertain the Kremlin's denial? Even then, the timing alone tells a different story. Ursula von der Leyen was on a tour through countries bordering or close to Russia, witnessing firsthand the hybrid threats those nations face daily. It almost seems as if Russia deliberately aimed to send a chilling message: no matter how closely you watch, we don't care. We will assert power however we please, whenever we like. Then there's the shadowy context behind this jamming incident. It occurred just as the EU was gearing up for its 19th round of sanctions against Russia's sanctions designed to inflict economic pain on Russian officials, companies, and institutions alike. The timing isn't just suspicious, it's a calculated jolt meant to intimidate. Could it be a warning wrapped in a digital assault? A reminder that every move to tighten the screws on Russia will be met with bold, invisible resistance? As von der Leyen's flight veered through Bulgarian skies, a silent but dangerous battle was raging. Who's next? And how far will the hybrid war escalate before it crosses the line from disruption to disaster? In a world overshadowed by the ongoing war in Ukraine, another form of conflict unfolds, a silent battle marked by deceit and cunning strategies. At its center is Russia, which aims to intimidate and undermine the very fabric of Europe. But in a shocking act of audacity, Russia has crossed a new line in this hybrid warfare. Imagine this: a plane carrying Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, enters Bulgarian airspace for a significant diplomatic mission. Suddenly, chaos erupts. GPS signals flicker and vanish, leaving the aircraft in turmoil. This audacious maneuver, a calculated GPS jamming, could have led to catastrophe. It's a chilling reminder of the dangerous games being played behind closed doors. Confirmation emerged from the Bulgarian government, revealing that during von der Leyen's flight, the navigation system was compromised. However, swift action by air traffic control ensured her safe landing. The incident was no coincidence, it was a blatant statement from Russia, a taunt directed at one of Europe's leading figures amid rising tensions. As Europe grapples with this audacity, Ariana Podesta, the EU Commission spokesperson, pointedly acknowledges Russia's intent. This blatant interference reaffirms our resolve to bolster our defenses. The message from the EU is clear: they will not be intimidated. But why would Russia dare to execute such a bold move on the eve of a new round of sanctions? Currently, the EU has levied 2,782 sanctions against Russia, with over 2,500 implemented since the conflict ignited. Countries such as France, Switzerland, and the UK join the fight with their own measures. The timing of the GPS attack raises eyebrows. Just as the EU prepared for its 19th round of sanctions, Russia displayed its willingness to escalate tensions further. With von der Leyen standing beside Ukraine's president, she had just declared the upcoming sanctions would exert unyielding economic pressure on Russia. Perhaps, in an act of defiance, Russia signaled its intent to remain unfazed by impending consequences, challenging the EU's unity and resolve. A recent speculated meeting among EU ministers hinted at targeting nations that assist Russia in evading sanctions. Has Russia miscalculated?
As global scrutiny intensifies, the Kremlin's denial of involvement serves as a reminder of its familiar strategy, deflection amid crisis. The stakes are high, and the world watches. With an unpredictable chessboard ahead, who will outmaneuver whom? What happens next could redefine Europe's standing and Russia's grip on power. Are we witnessing the unfolding of a new chapter in an already volatile narrative? The tension is palpable. Will those bold enough to challenge Russia pay the ultimate price? The answers may hold far-reaching implications. Previously, we saw how Russia's hybrid warfare tactics have escalated, targeting key European figures with sophisticated GPS jamming. The targeting of Ursula von der Leyen's plane was no accident. Now, the question lingers, is anyone truly surprised by Russia's denial? And more importantly, what is Europe's next move? Since early 2022, reports from Bulgaria's air traffic services reveal a sharp rise in GPS signal disruptions, both jamming and spoofing, that throw aircraft navigation into chaos. These attacks scramble satellite signals, leaving pilots blind to their exact location, a nightmare scenario in the skies. The official statement was clear: since February 2022, disruptions have become more frequent, severely affecting aircraft and ground operations. The timing and scale are no coincidence. Who else but Russia, armed with motive and capability, would risk such a brazen move against a top EU leader? The evidence points squarely at them. Could any other nation gain from causing such turmoil? It's a question with only one logical answer. These actions are designed to intimidate Europe and shake its resolve. Yet, contrary to Russia's intentions, the European Union is not backing down. The EU's response is already in motion. The 19th sanctions package against Russia, planned long before this incident, is poised for announcement. But sanctions alone won't be enough. Europe is stepping up its defenses in unprecedented ways. EU Defense Commissioner Andrius Kubilius revealed plans to deploy new satellites orbiting closer to Earth. These satellites will act like vigilant guardians, detecting GPS interference instantly. This early warning system aims to give pilots and air traffic controllers crucial extra seconds to respond, drastically reducing the risk posed by such jamming attacks. But that's not all. The EU is preparing for even bigger moves. According to recent reports, there are plans underway to send tens of thousands of multinational troops into Ukraine. This deployment would serve as a security guarantee in a post-conflict scenario, signaling a firm commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty. Imagine the tension this must send through Moscow. Yet, amid these preparations, a chilling thought remains: what message was Russia trying to send with this audacious attack? Was it a warning to Europe that no one is beyond reach? Or a desperate act of defiance against mounting pressure? The answer may lie deeper, in the shadows of a conflict that stretches far beyond conventional battlefields. As Europe braces for this new chapter, one thing is certain: the skies over Europe are no longer just about planes and satellites. They are battlegrounds in a silent war where every signal, every flicker of technology, can tip the balance. Will Europe's new satellites be enough to outsmart this invisible enemy? Or is Russia ready to unleash even more dangerous tactics? The next move could change everything. Previously, we saw how the European Union plans to send a multinational force into Ukraine after the conflict ends. This force could number in the tens of thousands. But how exactly will this military presence function? What might stand in its way? The answers reveal a complex web of strategy and tension. Imagine thousands of soldiers, led by Europe, stepping into a war-torn land. They won't stand alone. The United States promises vital support, offering intelligence, surveillance tools, and command systems already deployed across Europe. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, expressed firm confidence about America's involvement. She told the Financial Times that the U.S. presence was very clear and repeatedly affirmed. But what will these troops actually do once they arrive? One possibility stands out: they could monitor a demilitarized zone along Ukraine's border with Russia. Or, if a ceasefire holds, perhaps this buffer will stretch along the present front line, keeping fragile peace in place. Some European soldiers might even operate deep inside Ukraine, acting as a backup force, training and supporting Ukraine's own military. Could this be a bold new shield protecting the embattled nation? These are the kinds of scenarios currently under debate behind closed doors. But the path forward is anything but smooth. The biggest obstacle looms large: Russia itself. Just days after a high-profile meeting in Alaska between Vladimir Putin and former U.S. President Donald Trump, Moscow fired a sharp warning. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov blasted the idea of NATO troops on Ukrainian soil, calling it a root cause of the conflict in the first place. His words hung heavy in the air. We have a negative attitude towards these discussions.
This is no empty threat. Since most EU countries belong to NATO, their troops entering Ukraine would essentially be a NATO presence. How can Europe push through this when the Kremlin has made its opposition so clear? The answer lies in a delicate balance of power, politics, and risk. What will happen if Moscow tries to block this multinational force? Could it spark an even larger confrontation? And as Europe prepares to step up its role in Ukraine, does the West stand ready for the consequences? The story is far from over. The tension spirals. Will bold plans become reality, or shatter under Kremlin pressure? The next move could change everything.
In an unsettling twist to the ongoing tensions in Europe, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, is caught in a harrowing confrontation with a crucial military figure in the EU. As the shadow of Russia looms larger each day, the stakes are escalating, and the survival of the continent hangs in the balance. Just before a disturbing GPS jamming incident targeted von der Leyen's aircraft, the Atlantic Council published a stark warning about Russia's increasingly aggressive hybrid warfare tactics. According to expert Maxim Beznosiuk, Russia has meticulously honed its hybrid warfare strategies over the last decade, employing tactics initially developed during its initial military aggression against Ukraine. This means that as Russia evolves its approach, the European Union is lagging hopelessly behind, combating a foe that effortlessly wreaks havoc without officially declaring war. Russia strategically uses hybrid warfare to destabilize Europe, eroding support for Ukraine while cleverly avoiding retaliation that may provoke an all-out conflict. This insidious strategy is bolstered by a frustrating lack of coordination among EU nations, as acknowledged by Beznosiuk, who argues that the fragmented response plays directly into the Kremlin's hands. Does the EU truly grasp that Russia's actions are not just military skirmishes, but a psychological assault on the very fabric of Europe? This is the pressing question echoing through the corridors of power. If unity among member countries fails to materialize, a relentless assault on European stability will unfold, leading to dire consequences that could ripple across the continent.
Moreover, in a striking countermeasure, several European nations, including Finland and Poland, are returning to a historical strategy, one that could effectively neutralize Russian tanks. This approach could transform the landscape of conflict, giving European forces an edge against any armored assault. As von der Leyen navigates these treacherous waters, she faces formidable challenges on both political and military fronts. The rumble of approaching armored vehicles may not be far off if the situation does not change course swiftly. How will she and her counterpart, Boris Pistorius, align their stances? The clock is ticking, and the consequences of inaction are grave. The recent GPS jamming attack, a horrifying reminder of potential threats, highlights the urgent need for a unified response. Was this merely a display of Russia's reach, or is there more lurking in the shadows? Ultimately, Europe needs to awaken to the looming storm. The intertwining conflicts in this modern battle risk not only physical confrontation but also the very psyche of an entire continent. Can the EU safeguard its future, or will it succumb to the pressures of deceitful warfare? With every passing moment, the answer is becoming more elusive. Keep watching as this situation develops, and stay tuned for what might be the next shocking twist in this unfolding saga. Earlier, we uncovered how several European nations are reviving an old but powerful tactic to stop Russian tanks dead in their tracks. Finland and Poland are leading this effort, preparing defenses that could literally swallow invading armored vehicles whole. But what lies ahead? As Russia intensifies its hybrid war, Europe faces a perilous chess match, where every move risks igniting deeper conflict or fracturing alliances. Powerful voices within the EU clash over strategy, showing cracks in unity just when strength is most needed. Imagine a dark sky above Bulgarian airspace filled with tension. The quiet hum of an aircraft's engines suddenly meets an invisible menace, signals jamming the plane's navigation instruments. Ursula von der Leyen's aircraft teetered on chaos, GPS scrambled by a silent enemy whose aim was not destruction by firepower, but by sowing fear and confusion. What happened next exposed how far Russia is willing to push the limits of modern warfare without firing a single missile. This was no accident or careless interference. Bulgaria's government confirmed that satellite signals guiding the EC president were deliberately neutralized. Swift thinking by air traffic. With the focus on the catastrophic conventional war in Ukraine, it's easy to overlook a broader hybrid conflict erupting across Europe. Russia employs cunning tactics, targeting nearly all nations on the continent. By utilizing deception and indirect assaults, it seeks to intimidate and disrupt those it sees as adversaries. But a line has now been crossed. In a bold move, Russia has attacked an aircraft belonging to a leader of the European Union. This unprecedented strike involved not missiles or fighter jets but something more insidious. As the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, made her flight over Bulgaria, Russian forces initiated a GPS jamming operation that sent her navigation systems into disarray. As her plane approached the ground, chaos erupted. The satellite signals crucial for safe landing were neutralized, raising alarms across Bulgarian air traffic control. Quick-thinking officials swiftly rerouted her aircraft using terrestrial navigation methods, averting potential disaster. Historically, such maneuvers are often dismissed. Yet the danger looms larger than it may seem. GPS jamming could have led to a catastrophic accident. With signals overwhelmed, pilots might lose their way, drift into enemy territory, or even succumb to fuel shortages mid-air. This method of warfare isn't new. It has previously afflicted NATO-aligned vessels navigating the strategic Baltic Sea. The question remains, are these actions mere collateral damage or a deliberate threat against non-combatant nations? In the midst of rising tensions, a striking reality emerges. The incident came just as the European Union was gearing up for another round of sanctions aimed at crippling Russia's economy. These sanctions, now numbering in the thousands since the start of the war, could result in catastrophic consequences for the Kremlin. Russia's attack could be perceived as a brutal message. It realizes that the EU is ready to escalate its response. The clock ticks with every passing moment, and the implications of these jamming incidents extend beyond just the Commission president. Over the past year, airlines have reported thousands of similar interruptions around the Baltic region, showcasing a larger pattern intended to sow fear. What happened next is chilling. In March 2024, a Royal Air Force aircraft, carrying a high-ranking UK official, faced a GPS spoofing attack. Unlike jamming, this tactic replaces genuine signals with counterfeit ones, intensifying the threat posed by Russia's cunning hybrid strategies. As the aircraft neared Russian territory, the line between safety and catastrophe blurred. The pressure mounts as European leaders gather. Discussions revolve around introducing stringent measures against nations aiding Russia's escape from sanctions. The specter of impending retaliation looms large, amplifying the urgency of the situation. As tensions rise, will nations unite against this hybrid aggression, or will they succumb to fear? Only time will reveal the outcome. What if a powerful European leader's plane suddenly lost its navigation in midair, targeted not by missiles, but by invisible waves that turned her flight into chaos? Imagine the panic inside the cockpit, instruments failing, the ground rushing closer, a critical landing ahead. This isn't a scene from a spy thriller. It's real. The hidden war hitting Europe right now has just taken a terrifying new turn. Amid the brutal, open battle engulfing Ukraine, a quieter, deadlier skirmish unfolds across the continent. Russia isn't just fighting with troops and tanks anymore. It's using shadowy tactics, silent, invisible attacks that strike at Europe's nerves, spreading fear without a single shot fired. This time, it targeted Ursula von der Leyen, head of the European Commission, turning her plane into a trap without a trace of visible aggression. Her flight was cruising through Bulgarian airspace, just moments from landing, when suddenly, the guiding signals from satellites vanished. GPS systems went dark. Pilots rely on these signals like lifelines, and losing them in mid-flight can turn even the most routine journey into a nightmare. The Bulgarian government later confirmed that the satellite signals transmitting to the plane's GPS navigation system were neutralized. What caused this? Experts say it was GPS jamming, a covert weapon disrupting instruments by flooding them with false data. Why now? Von der Leyen was on a tour, visiting several European countries to witness firsthand the creeping hybrid warfare Russia is unleashing, tactics that blur the lines between war and peace. Perhaps to send a chilling warning, Putin chose this moment to showcase exactly how far Moscow is willing to push the envelope. Thankfully, quick action by Bulgarian air traffic controllers and skilled piloting turned potential disaster into a managed crisis. Landings continued safely, But the message was clear: Russia has upped the ante. No missiles. No visible attack. Just silent signals designed to throw Europe's leadership off course. Some might dismiss GPS jamming as a mild provocation, yet this tactic is dangerously reckless. It risks lives, flouts international norms, and pushes the boundaries of modern conflict. Unlike a blatant missile strike, these electronic assaults are harder to prove and easier to deny. Russia quickly dismissed the accusations, insisting the claims were incorrect. But who else would benefit from disrupting the EU Commission President's flight in Bulgarian skies? As the EU gears up to unleash its 19th wave of economic sanctions against Russia, timing couldn't be more suspicious. The sanction package, announced by von der Leyen herself, aims to deepen pressure on Moscow for its ongoing aggression. Is this electronic interference a warning? A way to rattle Europe's resolve without crossing the line into overt war? The boundaries between peace and conflict are dissolving. Invisible battles rage in the skies above Europe, threats masked in silence. And as governments scramble to respond, one truth stands out: Russia's hybrid war strategy is pushing Europe into dangerous, uncharted territory. What will come next? How far is too far when lasers replace bombs? And waves turn weapons? The sky might hold the answers. But one thing is certain: the Cold War of signals and shadows has arrived, and the stakes have never been higher. Have you ever questioned how hidden battles shape our reality? While the world watches the brutal conflict in Ukraine, a silent war is unfolding, a hybrid warfare targeting the very heart of Europe. Just recently, this war escalated dramatically. Imagine this: a European Union leader flying over Bulgarian airspace when suddenly, the navigation systems go haywire. Was it a mere malfunction, or a calculated move by Russia, designed to send a terrifying message? As the European Union confronts aggressive tactics from Russia, the stakes couldn't be higher. On September 1, as European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen prepared to land, her aircraft faced an unusual attack. Russian operatives executed GPS jamming, a stealth maneuver aimed at disrupting navigation systems. This wasn't an ordinary assault, it was a calculated act of intimidation with global implications. Picture the scene: von der Leyen's plane descends into Bulgarian airspace, the engines humming like a familiar song, when suddenly, chaos erupts. The onboard systems flicker, signals vanish, and panic threatens to cascade. Thankfully, quick-thinking air traffic control and the pilots swiftly resort to terrestrial navigation methods, averting disaster just in time. This incident isn't just a technical failure, it raises alarming questions about security and sovereignty. What does it mean when a high-ranking European official is placed in a precarious situation by foreign interference? The Bulgarian government confirmed. The satellite signal transmitting information to the plane's GPS navigation system was neutralized. But what was the intent behind such a brazen act? The echoes of political maneuvering resonate loudly. As von der Leyen tours Europe to gather insights on Russia's hybrid warfare strategies, Putin's message becomes chillingly clear: intimidation tactics are alive and well. Is this a warning that Russia will not be deterred? The EU stands firm, ready to bolster defenses, knowing that each act of aggression only solidifies their resolve. But could such an attack be a desperate act stemming from mounting pressure? As new sanctions loom, like the upcoming 19th round that promises to inflict economic pain, Putin may find himself resorting to increasingly aggressive measures. The timing is telling: no mere coincidence that the GPS jamming coincides with the announcement of these sanctions. Does Russia feel threatened? As the smoke clears and investigations begin, one must wonder: how far is Russia willing to go to maintain its power? What if, instead of spinning narratives, they were to own their actions? The notion of plausible deniability plays a dangerous game here, one that walks the fine line between intimidation and outright aggression. The consequences of these tactics can spiral into unpredictable territories. Echoes of the conflict reach further, affecting nations beyond Russia's borders. The Baltic Sea, under constant surveillance, has seen NATO-aligned ships encountering similar jamming tactics. Is it a sign of growing audacity, or a mere reflex of a regime cornered and grasping for control? In this intricate web of deceit and power play, the implications of hybrid warfare ripple through the fabric of Europe. Next time the planes soar above, will they fly under a shadow of fear? Will the people at the helm remain vigilant, or will they falter in silence? The real fight may just be beginning.
It's a tale of covert conflict and high-stakes politics, where a single flight can alter the trajectory of nations. While most eyes are glued to the grim reality of conventional warfare in Ukraine, a more insidious battle rages on, a hybrid war, deftly orchestrated by Russia against European nations. Amidst this tension, a chilling incident has unfolded, shaking the very foundations of European leadership. Imagine the scene: Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, gliding through the skies in her aircraft, the sense of purpose radiating from her. Suddenly, a sinister force strikes, a GPS jamming attack from Russia, disrupting her flight as it approached Bulgaria. This was not a missile barrage, no, but a silent and dangerous tactic intended to sow chaos. As reports flooded in on September 1, it became clear that this was no mere technical glitch. Bulgarian authorities confirmed the disruption of GPS signals, plunging von der Leyen's plane into confusion as it neared its landing. Imagine the palpable tension in the cockpit, the sounds of alarms blaring as her pilot wrestled with their instruments, relying on their own skills rather than satellite guidance. How often do moments like this tip the scales of fate? What was Russia trying to convey? Was it a warning shot or a desperate attempt to sway an unyielding leader? The EU was gearing up for a new wave of sanctions against Russia, a necessary response to its ongoing aggression. Could this audacious attack be a ploy to intimidate the president into backing down? "We targeted your plane," Russia seemed to taunt silently. But tomorrow, anything could happen. In the days that followed, a meeting took place among the EU's foreign affairs ministers in Copenhagen, discussing exactly how to update their sanctions against nations aiding Russia. With a backdrop of increasing GPS jamming incidents, tens of thousands reported in recent months, the stakes have never been higher. Air traffic services issued stark warnings about the operational hazards posed by such interferences. How would the EU respond to this new form of provocation? The appearance of a paper from the Danish presidency of the EU Council hinted at a potential shift, a tool for punishment against those enabling Russian evasions. Would the EU finally act on this? The question loomed large over every discussion, intensifying the anxiety surrounding von der Leyen's airborne experience. Each decision carries weight, and every action could reshuffle alliances. This incident, however, was just one thread in a broader tapestry woven with deception. Just months earlier, a Royal Air Force aircraft was embroiled in a similar GPS spoofing attack close to Russian territory, capturing the attention of military officials worldwide. With increasing incidents of jamming and spoofing, the question remains: who else might fall victim to this stealthy form of warfare? The eerie unpredictability chills the air as Europe steels itself against the unseen threats lurking on the horizon. As the geopolitical chess game unfolds, the implications of each move resonate far beyond the skies. What consequences will Russia face for its brazen actions, and how will Europe respond? The global stage is set for an exhilarating showdown, with stakes as high as the clouds themselves. What will the next chapter hold? Not long ago, tension inside the European Union flared up in an unexpected place within its own ranks. Just as Ursula von der Leyen publicly hinted at plans to send EU troops into Ukraine, a sharp voice from Berlin cut through the air with frank criticism. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius didn't mince words. He claimed loudly this wasn't just premature, it was fundamentally wrong to talk about deploying EU troops openly. The European Union has no mandate or authority to send forces, he declared firmly in the quiet streets of Troisdorf, a small German town. His message was clear: discussions must stay behind closed doors until everyone agrees. Yet, von der Leyen seemed to suggest the plan had already taken shape. Was she trying to pull a strategic move against Russia's intimidation? Or did Pistorius cross a line by challenging the European Commission president so publicly? The result? Confusion, controversy, and a widening crack where solidarity must stand firm. This internal dispute revealed something chilling. Putin's grand design in this hybrid war isn't just about missiles or tanks, it's about fracturing alliances, breeding doubt, and turning defenders against each other. The mysterious GPS jamming that rattled von der Leyen's plane now seems part of a sinister script meant to shake not just the EU's aircraft, but also its unity. Putin's shadow looms large, watching these EU disagreements with a satisfied smirk. Is it possible that the modern battlefield stretches far beyond the front lines in Ukraine? Could Russia's real power lie in sowing chaos within Europe's heart? Europe's fate may depend on resolving these internal rifts quickly or risk falling victim to the very tactics meant to divide it. But what does it mean when the defenders are divided? When the loudest voices from Europe's military circle openly contradict each other over how to face the threat. The world watches, wondering, is Europe prepared to stand as one? Or is the hybrid war swirling around it already pulling it apart? The air still thick with uncertainty. What will come next?